Hello YouTube, and if you've never been to this channel before, my name is Brandon Red, and this is Ramen Noodle Budgets, where we try and make things as cheap as we possibly can. So if you're completely new to what is going on, this is the second video of a video series where every single week I'm going to show you guys how to take a super cheap Halloween Jason hockey mask that usually costs about $1, mine are always from Walmart, and turn them into one from the movies. In today's video, we are going to be doing the highly suggested video of the Part 4 Jason mask. Right here, this old bloody beautiful goodness. Yes, like I said, this became this. Now to clarify something really quick, because I do keep getting a lot of comments, I am aware there are $3 Jason masks you can get on eBay from China that have the holes already drilled, they already have all the straps and all that crap. That's not the point of this video. If you guys actually have been to my channel, I've done a repaint of those masks before. This is more of a huge experiment video series I want to do where I take something like literally that anyone can access. These are available at Walmart, Dollar Tree, Target, anywhere you pretty much has Halloween decoration area, they have these out this year for some reason. I wanted to show that you can turn something so basic and cheap to something that actually looks pretty damn good. At the end of this video, if you guys want a chance to win this Part 4 mask, watch till the end. And I'm announcing the giveaway winner of the Part 3 mask at the end of this video as well. So stay tuned for all of that, and let's get started with the tutorial.
So we're obviously starting off with our cheap base hockey mask. This is the one from Walmart like I always use. Start off by cutting off those awful plastic tags and all the straps because like the Part 3 video, we're not using those straps. You're going to take some frog tape or any type of masking tape. In this video, we're actually going to cover up all 3 of those top holes because I realized the alignment on those was way off and the Part 3 one kind of came out weird. Then cover up all of the strap holes where the tags were, and as well as that little hole down the bottom in between the 3 vertical lines. Now, to fill the holes, I'm using actually this wall repair compound. It actually worked a lot better. It was a little more brittle, and the tape really couldn't be removed without completely removing everything else. But for this sake of this video, I thought it worked pretty well. I filled in all of the holes and kind of just left it there to dry for a little bit. This one dried so much quicker, that's why I used it, and after sanding it, because it is white, those holes are completely invisible at this point. I then used a Sharpie and traced out all of the lines. I tried to get a little more precise than the Part 3 mask, just because, I don't know, I want to try out. And after filling those top holes, I was able to make the top section look a lot better, and I don't know, it flowed a little bit better with the rest of the holes. It didn't look like it was tight on the top. Now, to solve the issue I had with the last mask, I actually used pilot holes, and this is like a, I don't even know what kind of, it's a smaller drill bit. It's as small as what I used to do the snap button rivets or whatever. So I drilled out every single hole using that drill bit, and as you can see, it's like completely through, no lines or no holes exploded. I then was able to move on to the correct size drill bit and drill out all the holes, and it had like 0 problems. Everything came out really good. The only spot that had any cracking or anything was the nose. I just forced it a little bit too hard on top of it, and it kind of just ended up snapping. But even in these really rigid, or not rigid, but flimsy areas, the mask did not shatter. So there is the mask. As you can see, all the holes were drilled out, no crazy explosions. I then sanded the mask entirely down with an 120 grit sandpaper, which now looking back might be a little bit too rough of a grit. I then added the snaps prior to painting. I didn't have enough to do the top section until after the paint, but it was fine because those ones could get covered up by the straps anyways. I also then marked out the axe cut with the Sharpie and cut it out. And yes, that is the correct size. Some people like to fight me about that in one of my videos from last year. That is the correct axe mark side. I don't know why people say it should be on the other side. I then used this off-white color, the same one I used in the Part 3, and gave the mask a few light coats of that to cover up the entire white base of the mask, I guess. I then used that satin lemongrass and very lightly misted it over to give the mask that yellow look that it's supposed to have in Part 3 and Part 4. Then, the same as the last video, I used my pencil and traced out any of the damage. Now, I have to give all the credit for all of this mostly to Big Hush. I really use his tutorials as a kind of basis for the paint jobs, and then I kind of deviate to whatever for these own masks. And then I'm using a knife here to create any of the deeper scratches and to really try to remove some of that paint. The weird thing about this mask, as opposed to using like those the more accurate cheap masks, the paint doesn't, like, underneath the white doesn't really show as much as it would on the other one. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's something you get to see in person. I then used my Cricut to cut out the chevrons again using some red vinyl and applied those. And I also forgot to mention in the last video, you can buy like dollar vinyl stickers from JDF Studios. They have them on there. So I applied those, and then since the Part 4 mask is heavily damaged, the top chevron is pretty much cut at a half, kind of at like a rigid, not really that rigid, I guess more of like a kind of curved cut, if that makes sense. I then used the knife to trace out the chevron as well, so that I got the kind of lines where the chevron was, because you do need to get rid of the paint there in a second. The bottom left chevron also is missing about like maybe like a quarter of the bottom half, so do the same thing, trace it out, and then remove that. Now, using a sharp knife, what you're actually going to do is just kind of remove the paint carefully, kind of trying to be precise, staying in those lines, coloring within the lines, except you're removing paint. Whatever I'm kind of saying at this point. Do the same thing with the bottom part. You may need to sand over just a little bit to kind of even out the surface, now because you have scratched it kind of heavily. I then mixed up a dirty color using black and a little bit of a lighter brown, and then patted the paint into any of the damaged areas, and then used a wet cloth to remove the rest of it. This really just helped pronounce those areas a little bit better, because as I said, I don't know if it's the paints I'm using, but the white damaged areas don't really pop as much as they should, or as I would like them to. So adding the black around the edges sticks into where the sanded parts and really does help those areas kind of pop just a little bit more. I then went in with a paintbrush to add a little bit more precise weathering. I looked at some reference photos to try and figure out where the extremely damaged areas were on this mask. I also went back with the knife to fix it up. Here is my finished weathering paint job, and then here comes the fun part. So I'm just using a little bit of a red acrylic paint. I have like a little mason jar, or I think it's actually a yogurt jar, I don't really know. And in the first run I mixed in a little bit too much black. It came out way too dark for my liking. And so I remixed everything up, which goes to show, guys, like, if you don't like something the first time, do not be afraid to redo it. That's like the best lesson you can learn from doing any type of project. I then dabbed the paint on kind of heavily into the axe part. Now, to stay accurate to the film, you could just leave it here like that. The mask really doesn't have that much blood running down at all times. But I really liked Big Hutch's interpretation of the mask where the blood was pouring down. So I mixed a little bit of water into the paint and then tried to tap it down. And then I put huge puddles of paint on and actually was able to drag it. And it did end up looking pretty natural for the most part, because it really didn't show brush strokes because there were huge puddles of red paint. I then dragged it down and tried to make it look as natural as I possibly could for something like this. I really did like the blood color that I ended up getting. I thought it looked kind of real. I then added some very, very heavy coats of clear coat. Now the issue, like I was saying, is the sandpaper I've been using is a little bit too rough, and it totally diminishes the quality of the shine at the end that Part 3 and Part 4 masks are supposed to have. Unfortunately, I used so much gloss that it ended up getting underneath the chevrons, because I did use a removable vinyl, and it caused them to shrivel up. And so I peeled them off, recut them on my vinyl cutter, my Cricut, and then reapplied them and just recut off the sections that are supposed to be missing, and it looked great. To do the straps, I'm doing exactly what I did in the Part 3 video, so if you want to see a little bit more in depth on how to do that, go check out that video. Basically, it's 2 straps. I folded over all the edges, sewed it in, and then made the head kind of strap. I made a huge loop in it, sewed that down, and there's basically your T-strap. I cut a hole in it with a pair of scissors, and then added the other half of the snap and set that in. I repeated that for the other 2 sections. After that is the super, super fun part. You get to snap in your mask. I don't know why that's so satisfying to me. After that, your mask is completely finished. I was once again extremely happy with how this one came out. I think I did a pretty good job. It matches like pretty well with the Part 3 mask, even though the lines don't really line up all that well. It's great having them next to each other. I made the straps a little bit tighter, so as you can see when I try it on, it kind of conforms to my face a little more, which is a little less accurate, but I think it adds a great touch. And I was really, really happy. I was actually more happy with how this one came out as opposed to Part 3, because I love heavy weathering on things. So yeah.
So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. This one was a lot of fun to make. I loved doing the blood effects, and I feel like I learned a lot of good tips and tricks from these 2 videos that I can really implement in next week's Part 5 Jason Mask video, which once again, the schedule for all of the masks for this Halloween season are listed right down below in the description. So if you guys would like to win this Part 4 mask, all you have to do is like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below. Alright, so now that's out of the way, let's get to the winner of this part 3 mask right here. One in the last video who subscribed, liked, and commented down below. Your comments are all kind of pooled into this little random picker thing, and I'm gonna pick the winner right here for you guys. The winner of last week's Jason mask goes to Logan Michael Anti-Funko Pops. What a long username. So be sure to send me a message on one of my social media so we can figure out how to send this to you. All of my social media links are down in the description below as well. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, make sure you do subscribe to this channel, like this video if you can, and share it with all your friends and family to get the word out there that Jason can be found at your local Walmart. And in the craft section and in a whole bunch of other sections to make this thing look awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah guys, so next week is of course part 5. Check that out and I'll see you then.